Whiskey, the most famous alcoholic beverage, is comprised of a combination of grain, water, and yeast. Every country creates its own whiskey in a unique way, but all consist of those three main ingredients. The grains contain starch, which can be turned into fermentable sugars with the help of certain enzymes. When the sugars are dissolved into heated or warmed water, allowed to cool, add yeast, and the result is a liquid containing alcohol. Each time you heat the liquid, the amount of alcohol increases. This is done until the desired amount of alcohol is achieved. The liquid is then poured into casks made of wood and left to age. By law, the minimum amount of ABV must be at least 40% for it to be considered whiskey. Whiskey most likely originated in Ireland. Over time, the knowledge of whiskey distilling spread over to its neighbor, Scotland. Scottish and Irish immigrants brought their knowledge along with them to Canada and the United States. Somewhere in the early 20th century, whiskey distillation spread to Japan from Scotland. The five main powerhouses of whiskey are Ireland, Scotland, Canada, the United States, and Japan. These key countries are known as the Big Five because they produce and export the most whiskeys in the world. Irish whiskey and Scotch are from the same region of the world, but are very different. Both are made in copper pot stills and matured by law for at least 3 years in wooden casks. The Scottish distill their whiskey twice, while the Irish distill theirs 3 times. The Scots are most well known for their single malt whiskey, which has a signature smoky taste and aroma to it due to its barley being peat smoked. The Irish whiskey is most known for having its barley dried in covered kilns, which keeps the barley's natural flavor. The United States whiskeys are usually made of a mixture of different grains following a very specific recipe called a mash bill. There are different kinds of American whiskey as follows. Bourbon can be made anywhere in the United States, but for the most part is produced in Kentucky, and its main ingredient is corn. Tennessee whiskey can only be made in Tennessee. Rye whiskey is mainly produced in Kentucky too, but rye is its main ingredient. Canadian whiskey is a combination of corn, wheat, and rye, but rye is usually the most important part. Each ingredient is distilled and matured separately and then blended. A small amount of fruit wine, less than 10%, is added to enhance flavoring options. Japanese whiskey follows the Scottish distilling traditions, but with their own twist. The Japanese imported large amounts of Scottish whiskey and have blended it with their own distillates native to Japan, and known to be very aromatic. Whiskey can be made anywhere in the world that there is access to yeast, water, and any sort of grain can be grown. There will always be a demand for the gentleman's drink.